The sari will always be in a woman's cupboard. It is my history book, a versatile piece of cloth. It is yours, you've taken ownership of it, and you drape it the way you like. That drape becomes symbolic of you do what you want.
It also doesn't demand a body type, which almost every other
So
piece
it
of clothing
liberates
does.
the woman. It gives the woman confidence. It's her own thing. And therefore I call it second skin. This is a celebration of Shakti, of the woman. Indira Gandhi in my time was a fashion icon for me. Padmaja Naidu was the most wonderful woman. It's ingrained in this country, in our DNA.
Maharashtra,
Kerala, Bihar, Udaipur, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Nagaland,
Kashmir. You got 21 saris from your mother-in-law when you got married. Do you still have them?
all of them.
Mala, you write in this beautiful book that you have conversations with your saris. So I want to start by asking you, what was the last conversation you had with your sari?
Well, it's interesting, Barkha. I talk non-stop, as you know, and I'm a storyteller of, generations of stories. But I find textiles actually embody histories, experiences, relationships, friendships, travel. It is my history book because I was thrown out of university. I am not educated.
What did you do to
with
get thrown out of university?
Well, I just didn't do physical training, PT. It was too early in the morning to do it. So I went to the National School of Drama. And in an interesting way, theatre teaches you that life is living it to its full and doing everything that comes in its spectrum. So 180 degrees. So in theatre, you learn that. You learn about costume, you learn about setting, you learn about time, age, space, language, dialects, music, movement, anger, passion, all of that. And I think all of that is embodied in textiles. You look at a carpet, there's a story in the carpet. The other thing is that I'm not one of who lives with empirical evidence. Every time I speak, I have to have a backup because I read it in, I don't know, Bob Woodward's book or something like that. Textiles gives you the freedom to interpret life, experience, people, conversations as you choose. I don't need a scholar to tell me how to read a carpet. If there is a floral motif on the carpet, I look at it and I think, I wonder why they used the blue and the red and the green and didn't use purple. And then I interpret it as it comes from a culture that doesn't use purple. Mauve is not, for instance, you're wearing mauve, but mauve is not a desi color. Bengani is. So yours is getting close to Bengani, but it's not fully there. So that kind of thing. And it allowed me the freedom of spirit, the freedom of dreaming.
So your book is called Saris of Memory, and you weave a tale around your own life, around the lives of women and men you met, using the sari as both a metaphor and itself. And there's some amazing women in their saris in this book, starting with your mother, through Indira Gandhi, Vasundhara Raje Scindia, Sarojini Naidu's daughter. Let's pick up some of these women whom we only know from a distance in public life, and what their saris tell us about them. Sarojini Naidu.
So, Sarojini Naidu, I didn't meet because I was born after she died. But Padmaja Naidu was the most wonderful woman. Her daughter. And she used to wear the most stunning saris. So she'd have tea parties in the evening. And in the middle of summer, she'd be wearing a very heavy Banarsi sari, sitting on a chair with a footstool. Actually, maybe that footstool that I use constantly has come from some memory of her.
Yeah.
And she used to put a hibiscus over her left ear. A beautiful teapot and sugar pot and all of that would be served. And she'd sit there like a queen and conduct an afternoon of conversation.
Yeah.
And when I wanted to go to America and I wanted to go alone and live there for a year before I got married, and my husband was at university at Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, and I wanted to work there. So I got a job as a sales girl in a Government of India shop called Sona that sold handicrafts and handlooms, primarily handlooms. And I went to Padma. Well, I used to call her Padmasi, which is why I hesitated. And I said, how do I get my mother to accept the fact that I am running away for a year and I'm going to be living on my own? And there were no cell phones and all. You had to book trunk calls and all. So, it was a complete cut with family. And I was dying to break loose. And she said, darling, on one condition, that you stop wearing white blouses with every sari and you match the sari blouse. So from then on, I started matching. Till then, as good left of center, we'd wear white petticoats, white blouse, and wrap any sari around, so that symbolizes her influence. She influenced me greatly. When I was in theater, she always bought me books that were, Greek tragedies and small editions, beautiful editions. There were women who actually became mentors without being mentors. They were at par, but they were teaching you and not condescending at all. And Pupul was another one.
Pupul Jayakar.
Pupul Jayakar threw me into the deep end by saying to me, you want to learn about India? There's a Bihar famine. Why don't you pick up all the baskets that the men in Bihar, in Mithila, were weaving during the famine? HHEC, the Handloom Export Corporation, was buying them, not giving them a dole, but getting them to work and getting their skill in play and paying them for it. You take those baskets and you go to Sabzi Mandi every morning at 5 o'clock and sell those baskets to vegetable vendors. So just think of me. I get up in the morning, nice air-conditioned room in Chanakyapuri. I walk out of the door onto the road. I climb into a truck with a guy who's been driving, God knows, from Jaipur or Meerut or whatever all night, smoking. You could smell the bidi and everything else in the truck. And I go with him at 5 a.m. to Sabzi Mandi to sell. Now, we were thrown in. We were thrown into the deep end during the Festival of India. Go find something to do. Go check out a loom. Go check out a region. And she tells the story of how when she started, TTK, who was the first finance minister of Nehru's cabinet, actually said to her, go revive the handloom sector, which had lain dormant during the British. And I don't want to get into all that boring history, but she didn't know. She'd never seen a loom and she knew nothing about weaving.
Imagine.
And so she went out there, looked at a loom, taught herself and traveled around India, just studying, looking at, talking, engaging with weavers. And she became the impresario, not the technical person, of bringing all this together. So she had the vision, much like she handed that baton to Mapu, who was not a technical person who had the vision, but Rakesh Thakur, trained at NID, brought the techniques in. And you had the Festival of India, Vishwakarma Handloom Show. So we all learnt like that.
And Indira Gandhi?
Indira Gandhi in my time was a fashion icon for me. I can only speak about myself. I wore saris from the age of 17 regularly, if not earlier. And I didn't take to the Punjabi suit. And because
it's so comfortable.
Yes, but now I might want to wear it periodically. But my grandmother wore a salwar kameez to go to sleep. That was a night suit and they wore saris during the day. So all these little things. And that's what I want to say, memory. I didn't delve into any notes, any book. I didn't go and research. It just came. And as it came, it's the first draft. I corrected it once and that's it.
What did Indira Sari say to you about
So Indira Saris was she wore only handlooms. Wherever she went, she was wearing I thought they were beautiful saris, a ikat border, a plain khadi sari with a little red border or red and black striped border, beautiful pallas. And she just looked so glamorous. And she was a woman. She was our first woman prime minister. She was young.
Our only woman prime minister.
Our only woman, sorry. Yes. She was, 58 when she became prime minister. She was a widow, and this country accepted in those days somebody who was supposedly an out of, I don't want to use the word caste, but, widows, it was a difficult kind of,
Yeah.
at that moment. And she, widow, prime minister, woman, wearing all these wonderful things, taking on, there's a wonderful picture when I say taking on of Raghu Rice, with her sitting with her back and she's at her desk and all the congressmen with their hat, Congress topi standing around, Ji Hazuri. And I thought, my God, this is a celebration of Shakti, of the woman, and she's out there and we're showing the world that we are far more emancipated than the Western world because we accept as equals women, the Ardhangani, the whole thing. So she became my icon, and I just wanted to copy her look, the way she conducted herself, authority, all of that, which all of us love as women, and wear her kind of clothes. So that was the beginning of my, I don't want to use the word collection, but wherever I traveled, I bought a sari or a piece of cloth.
But her daughter-in-law, Sonia Gandhi, has actually sought to archive Indira's saris and has her own collection, which is very trademark Sonia.
Yes, and I think Sonia Gandhi has archived everything, but more than that, she knows a great deal about handlooms, respects it, wears saris beautifully, because usually Western women don't carry saris very well. I mean, she doesn't look Western in the sari. She's totally Indian and at ease. I think the sari in many ways is second skin for her, like it was for our entire generation who wore saris. And the reason I say this is because Sonia Gandhi came here at the age of 18 or something like that, I don't know. And she's not left.
Yeah.
She got married, she came back, went, got married and stayed. So for us who wore saris in our generation and wore them regularly, it's really a second skin. So it's my story, it's my friend's story, who gave me that sari. I wore it the first time I went and danced with somebody I had a glad eye for, or whatever. There are all these nuggets that are embodied in it.
There's a nugget about Sanjay Gandhi gifting you a sari.
No, he never gave me a sari. No, there's
Is
no
that another
nugget.
Sanjay?
No.
It just says Sanjay.
Sanjay Garg.
Raw mango.
It
just said Sanjay. I thought Sanjay Gandhi.
No, Sanjay Garg.
I'm mixing up my Sanjays there.
You really are. But Sanjay Garg gave me a wonderful sari, which was motifs, Jamdani motifs, as many as he could find, all in one sari. He just laid it out like a mosaic. And it's a directory of motifs for Jamdani.
Let's talk about raw mango for a moment and then come back to your other memories. What do you feel about this sort of current or contemporary attempt to keep the sari afloat? In the sense that there are certain things that you obviously despise, like zipped up saris, which are all the rage now.
That's not a sari, that's a frock. Okay, so let's not bring it into the context here. I think this experimentation in the unstitched length of cloth.
Yeah.
You have to have experimentation, otherwise it dies. So it has to grow with each generation. So Sanjay Garg, he's done a collection which he calls the Gayatri Devi collection.
Yeah.
So he's added roses in the borders and scalloped borders. I think they're really rather charming. I went and bought one.
Yeah.
Because it talks of a time, it talks of a period, it talks of a type. And I love all that, as long as you don't stitch it. The moment you start stitching a turban, at these weddings now, they put these strange looking things and everyone looks like little monkeys running around.
So you're saying drop the petticoat if you want, wear it over trousers if you want.
Absolutely. It's an unstitched length of cloth. Wrap it the way you choose. Exactly like I say, interpret the motif, the color, the way you choose, not what some scholar has told you to believe.
The other beautiful details in the book is how it's actually a living fabric. So in Maharashtra, women wear it a different length because, the origin of that was women working in the paddy fields, so it's draped differently. How, in Kerala, that white and gold trademark sari comes from it comes from Kerala's own geographical sort of context. So talk a little bit, take us through, let's say, our audience knows nothing
Barkha, you really read the book.
I am an old school journalist. Yes.
No, so Kerala, let's start from there. People said to me, I said, people, why do they wear no color in Kerala? Why is the traditional sari
cream and gold?
Kora with the gold. And she said, I think it's because it's a riverine community and they didn't want dye houses to pollute their rivers. And I thought, It's ingrained in this country, in our DNA, to live, the new word, organically.
Yeah.
We always did.
Yeah.
Till we started to ape post-independence. We started to ape what we thought was progress. And I think that destroyed our skill sector.
Yeah.
It destroyed our, I don't know how to put it, our soul. However, post all that, you've got a generation in their 30s now who want to delve into what I grew up with,
Yeah.
because they realize it's very much more celebratory than picking up something off the rack. So, and just fiddling with it, Fashion also has changed. There are young people who are doing saris like Sanjay Garg, but there are many others. There's a young fellow I met at one of the talks I gave somewhere who came up to me and said, ma'am, I'm an Ayurvedic doctor, but in my spare time, I actually work in Jamdani, and I've done this sari, which I'm experimenting with, a little border, beautifully done, putting his own money into it.
Amazing.
So, I think there's a regeneration, and we shouldn't push it. We should
let it happen organically.
Let it happen.
Yeah.
And it will happen, but the day you wear a zip-up sari, then it's going to die. Because that's convenience. You want to look, as an Indian, you want to look ethnic-y, but ethnic is when you wear somebody else's dress, not your own.
That's right.
So the moment you wear a sari zipped up, then you're wearing a fancy dress. Then it dies.
Yeah.
But if you just wrap it around a pair of jeans and a shirt just because you want to order it like a shawl, it's just a longer shawl, it survives.
Yeah. And in Maharashtra, it's all the whole 9 yards
because women worked in the fields, fishing community, you waded into the sea, you hitched your sari up. It was just convenient to put it between your legs and tuck it at the back. And you could open it in the evening and it would flow. They tie it differently. The Maharashtrians wear they look very regal with the way the pleats flow, and it's lower than the sari. So, because it's 9 yards, but you can tuck it up. So when I went to Nagaland on the Festival of India with Mapu, for instance, where Pupul said, yes, we found a man selling what we didn't know. We didn't recognize one artifact in those sacks, all from Naga tribes. So we said to her, can you buy this with your budget? And she said, all right, 5 lakhs. And I said, we'll all work free, but you just let us go to Nagaland and we'll go tribe to tribe, climb up those hills, and I'm saying that consciously, and try and identify all the artifacts. And we did the exhibition in Moscow for the Festival of India. I wore a sari on that entire trip because it was just easier to hitch it up
and tuck it in,
cover your head when it was hot. You didn't carry an umbrella, put some ugly hat on your head and look like nothing on earth. So very versatile. When I'm walking around the house and I want to dust something, I just use my palla and knock off the dust. I mean, it's true. It is that. It is. And so for me, it is a versatile piece of cloth. Like the turban is.
Yeah.
Like the Angavastram is. I think Ahilyabai started her cotton weaving in Maheshwar. I think, now this is again, interpret the way you want. It's a cotton growing area.
Yeah.
She must have got them to come and spin the cotton and then hand roll it and make the sacred thread for the priests in the temples that she had created. From that, you move on to a sari. The influence comes from Indore, Aurangabad. It's on that route.
Yeah.
The weavers come in and it grows. And that's the joy of it.
It's also kind of...
I get verbal diarrhea when I talk about the sari.
It's riveting, but it's also a civilizational chronicle, if you will. And I think you trace, one of your stories takes us all the way back to Mohenjo-daro.
And you know how strange, I haven't put him there, but there he is. That is the priest.
My God, that's uncanny.
It is uncanny because I didn't think you were going to ask me that question. He's just been sitting there for a long time. That pattern is the beginning of Ajrak, as I read it.
Yeah.
So it started there, earth and sky. Why blue and madder? Indigo and madder, earth
and sky.
Motif, stars, little florals, ground, what grows on the ground, what you see in the universe. That's the organic. That's the definition of organic. Not eating some quinoa with hard-boiled eggs. And so it comes from there, it comes into...
You forgot avocado.
Avocado also. And it comes into the Ahar civilization, Udaipur, that district.
Yeah.
It goes to Hanumangarh, it goes to Gujarat. Now, we can fight. Rajasthan and Gujarat can fight over who owns Ajrak.
Yeah.
But Ajrak is, for me, the symbol of trade and trade routes. And then from the other side, ikat symbolizes this. Both techniques are color resist techniques. You use wax, it's a complicated thing, but they did it to embellish their garments with different colors and so on. Ikat is the same, the warp. Ikat is so complicated that when you structure the warp to dye according to the color pattern, the color and the pattern, and then you have to tie it again and then dye it again and get a recurring pattern for 6 meters, it is like a computer. And that computer is in the mind of the human. It is not an app or software that you're looking at. It's there. And it has been passed down through an oral tradition. And that is our IT. Our information technology is not all this other stuff that's happening in Silicon Valley and Yevo, and this is it. And it's embodied in us. That comes out in the finished product of an ikat sari. Ikat bound us with Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
So these are all symbols of trade, economies, growth, wealth, spirituality, because they're used for greeting the visiting dignitary. It's used in a temple. Our goddesses in South India are wrapped in saris. Those are given away every year. The same thing happens in Makkah. The hand embroidered hisba, that is the entrance cloth into the sanctum, is hand done. Every year it's changed, remade. So, these are civilizational commonalities. And then came trade, then you link the world with trade, and the textile is borderless. For me, that's very important. We are not in little silos. We can go anywhere we like and flow like a river. And I know I'm using expressions that sound like Pupul Jaikar in our early days, but it's true. Now we are in silos. We are structured by borders. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't cross that, you mustn't do that. The color for this year is mauve. The color for next year is yellow.
I think one of the most brilliant things you said in one of your conversations was that the sari transcends fashion trends, and that's why it is such a statement of autonomy. Because otherwise, you've got entire generations following. This is the trend this season. The sari beats all that.
It beats all that, and I tell you, Barkha, I really believe that the Indian woman and her strength, her confidence, over centuries, embodied in all kinds of traditions, is because of the unstitched length of cloth. It is yours, you've taken ownership of it, and you drape it the way you like. That drape becomes symbolic of you do what you want. So if I want to cover my head, or even my face, that doesn't make me a weaker person. Right? That may be my cultural need for the moment. It may be because I want to keep the flies off my face. It may be because I don't want to see some ugly lout walking around on the street. The West does not interpret our cultural traditions in the same way because they come from a different sensibility. And it's very interesting. Indira Gandhi always covered her head, but she was the strongest leader we've seen for a long time till very recently.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. Nobody questioned that.
And the other thing is, it doesn't...
But everyone's questioning hijab and everyone's questioning... these are all conversations that need to be had. But I think that sari and the way you drape it and how you want to drape it as an individual, not because society is saying that's how you have to tie the sari.
It also doesn't demand a body type, which almost every other piece of clothing has.
So it liberates the woman. It gives the woman confidence. It's her own thing. And therefore I call it second skin, because you can do what you like with it. You grow fat, you don't have to go and buy a new sari. You don't have to wear a blouse with a sari. You don't have to wear anything with a sari. You can take the end of a sari, knot it like they do in South India, and tie the sari whichever way you want, and you take it over here. You don't need to have a blouse or a t-shirt.
Yeah.
So it liberates.
There's a move back to handloom, as you said today. But there was also a brief period which your book captures, the arrival of the polyester sari. And Vimal, we are old enough to remember the only Vimal ad, Dhirubhai Ambani, enters this space. Personally, not a fan of polyester saris, but when you look at it as a moment in time, because the sari is a metaphor for everything else.
And I think this is a very important issue you've raised, because you cannot clothe India in handloom. You've got 1 billion people, it becomes too expensive. It's not possible. Working women want 2 saris, wash and wear. It's much more convenient. You're living in nuclear families, or you're living in joint families in tight spaces. 2 people in the family are working, grandmothers are looking after the children. I mean, it's all very complex. So it's small, and it has to be economical. And terylene, as we used to call it, polyester, as you call it, is economical, but highly dangerous. I mean, there have been endless number of accounted deaths of women sitting in front of kerosene stoves, cooking, and the edge of the palla catching fire, and, So, man-made fiber has to happen, and therefore let me go back. When Dhirubhai did the sari, he found that floral prints didn't work in middle-class India, because they wanted to wear the traditional. They wanted to have a border, and they wanted a palla. It wasn't complete without it. Couldn't be running yardage.
Yeah.
So he actually started putting designs of ikat borders. I bought 2 such saris. I couldn't find them for the book. But, or bandhani, made women comfortable wearing what they were used to in their tradition.
But without having to starch it and iron it.
All of that. Okay? So that was an interesting element that entered. And if you go a little back in time, the chiffon sari that the Maharanis and the elites wore in India.
Still wear?
Yeah. They added a brocade border. Why? Because that was India. The rest was French chiffon in those days. So you always brought your own into play, because that's what gave you confidence. So Dhirubhai immediately saw that and changed it. Every sari looked from a distance like a handloom sari, but when you went closer, it was polyester. Now, I think today, to keep handlooms alive, you need to become patrons of handloom. The Raja was the patron.
Yeah.
The Brits came. They took the cotton away. Government tried to become a patron post-independence. But I think Nehruji, with the best intentions in the world, created institutions. And I think institutions are short-lived. It has to be, to use that horrible word, organic. So if marketing systems had been put up along the administrative system or line that they did put up very effectively, they could have had a marketing parallel line to the mandi and to the city mandis and so on. The weaver could have got the infrastructure in situ, and it would not have created alien looking products that are then miming something that they are disconnected with. That begins to create the dilution, because they're not comfortable weaving that. So anyway, that's a very long story, but I think today we need patrons. So for instance, if you think you really like a Bomkai sari, you can go to a village and say, okay, I'm going to adopt a loom. And I'm going to pay you X stipend, and you weave the saris, and we'll sell them to some shop in Delhi. And they'll be lapped up like this. And you can say to the son, who's become a computer, what do they call them? A computer engineer. You can say, listen, I'm going to give you a scholarship or a fellowship, or call it what you may, for you to spend time in the evenings learning your father's skill, so that the skill lives on.
So this is my question. Are you scared or worried, not scared, worried, that the craft is dying, A? B, are you worried that the sari is dying?
So I'm not worried about either, because neither are dying. There are lots of young people who are actually going back into this. Women will wear saris when they get married. Okay, there's a lehenga is the fad. So you're wearing lehenga and short cholis and you're covering your face.
And everyone
you're
looks
exposing the rest of your body.
And everyone looks the same in that.
And so it's a phase, it'll go through. The sari will always be in a woman's cupboard here. I don't think it's going to go till we make zipped up saris. This zip sari is going to kill the sari.
Yeah.
And, it has to be a patronage craft. It cannot be arm. It'll be arm at some level.
Yeah.
At another level, it will be patronage. And every woman will buy 1 or 2 saris, not to wear to work, but to wear for Diwali, Holi ke baad, Karwa Chauth, New Year, Shadi, Mangni, birth, death. So you will have in every home, from the village to the city, you will have traditional gear, because I think the DNA of India is still rooted in its culture.
Let's end with memories. You got 21 saris from your mother-in-law when you got married. Do you still have them?
All of them. And they look like I bought them yesterday, because that zari never tarnished.
Yeah.
Nobody was cutting corners. There was pride in doing that. And then we went through this polyester phase where the pride, the polyester, that's fashionable. Now the pride is coming back. And I'll give you the last example. Memory. I did a project with Ahilya Matan in Venkatgiri from my imagination and memory. I saw Prema Srinivasan of TVS wearing a sari many years ago in Chennai. And it stuck in my mind. And I drew it on a piece of paper, went to Venkatgiri, and did 9 similar saris. The son of the weaver said to me, this sari reminds me of something my grandfather used to weave. I had cut out all those prancing animals and multicolors and all, because weavers at some point felt that they had to feed what the market wanted. Earlier, they led the market. So the moment you go, how do you know what the market wants? You've not got any data, you've not done any research, it's hearsay, it's again on that oral thing. Some woman comes and says, isme thoda lal dal do, aur thoda hara dal do, aur idhar ek tota bana do, aur udhar ek more bana do. And he does it and he sells 5 saris, then he starts repeating that. So I said, मैं भी वही कर रही हूँ. वो सब निकाल दो, और इधर check डालो, और इधर stripe डालो, और इधर थोड़ा सा जामदानी डालो, and now that is taken off. So interventions will work.
Like the Kashmir loom sari.
Yeah. The Kashmir loom sari was another such thing. I mean, to do a sari like that.
It's an intervention.
Yeah, it's an intervention. So you do interventions, you try to do it within a vocabulary and a directory.
Yeah.
If it exceeds that, so be it. It'll be a fad.
Yeah.
It'll go, because nobody will wear that kind of sari at a wedding or for Diwali or for any auspicious occasion. They will only want to wear what their mothers wore and what their grandmothers wore. So ultimately you come back. It's a cycle. And that cycle must happen.
Yeah.
Because without that cycle, you don't know. You can't make the choices.
So that's why I want to end where it all began, with your mother's saris.
So my mother only wore cotton. And then she wore...
And that was the politics of the time.
It was the politics. Then she wore printed silks in the winter when we came to Delhi. She never wore any dressy, heavy sari. And when she passed, in her will, she said, all my saris have to go to the woman who works with you, who looks after your son. So all her saris went. I kept 2, which is the chiffon one, which is in the book, a Georgette, which was an embroidered sari she got because a Polish emigre, Madame Karosh, started a business in Bombay. And so I have that one sari, which I think talks volumes about exchanges, interventions, politics of the time, post-World War.
Yeah.
And Agara sari, because that was Bombay and the
Parsis. Yeah. Beautiful. You have inspired me to start wearing saris. I hope I'll resume.
Well done. It's the easiest thing to wear.
And I have my mother's trunk load of saris.
And I think you should take a decision that every alternate day, you wear a sari and you wrap it the way you choose and you tuck it in, you take it round, you tuck it in. You'll be working as easily as you work in this. Because here, oh God, I've had lunch, you have to loosen the button. There you don't have to do anything. You just have to hide your stomach.
Made for the Indian woman's body.
Yes.
Saris of Memory by Malvika Singh, an absolutely beautiful book. Mala, congratulations.
Thank you so much, Barkha, for this. Thank you.
Thank you.